My son attended ballet classes and one of the moms there bullied us for it, until my son beat her daughter in a competition. She couldn't stand losing and started spreading false rumors about us, so we took everything from her. It all started about 3 years ago when my son Elijah, he's 10 now, first told me he wanted to take ballet classes. I was washing dishes, and he just came up to me after school all excited because they had this demonstration at his school from the local dance academy. I wasn't really shocked or anything. Elijah has always been this energetic kid who loves to move and jump around. He used to turn our living room into a stage almost every day after school. So when he asked about ballet, I was like, sure, why not? My brother Jason immediately had opinions about it though. He came over for dinner that weekend, and when Elijah told him about wanting to do ballet, Jason got this look on his face. He didn't say anything directly to Elijah, but later when we were cleaning up, he cornered me in the kitchen. Maya, are you sure about this ballet thing? Don't you think soccer or basketball would be better for him? I just stared at him. I told him Elijah can do whatever activity makes him happy, and Jason needed to check his outdated ideas at the door. My mom wasn't much better though. When I told her about signing Elijah up for ballet classes, she got all worried about how the other boys would treat him. I get that she was coming from a place of concern, but it still ticked me off. I've been raising Elijah alone since his dad took off when he was 2, and I'm used to making decisions by myself. I don't need a committee vote on my son's extracurriculars. The first day I took Elijah to Vivian's dance academy was when I got my first taste of the dance mom scene. Holy crap, I was not prepared. I'm standing there in my Target jeans and work polo surrounded by these women in designer athleisure carrying monogrammed water bottles. Elijah was the only boy in his age group, and I could feel the stares as we walked in. This one mom, who I would later learn was Nicole Harrison, PTA president and self-appointed queen of everything, gave us this once-over like we were dirt on her shoe. Her daughter Lily was clearly the star of the class, decked out in a perfect ballet outfit while the other kids had more basic stuff. We couldn't afford much, so Elijah was wearing black sweatpants I'd cut off at the calf and a white t-shirt. Ms. Vivian, the dance teacher, was super nice though. She's this tall, elegant older woman who used to dance professionally in New York. She welcomed Elijah warmly and made sure he felt comfortable as the only boy. After class, while we were getting ready to leave, Nicole came over with this fake smile. "It's so nice to see a boy interested in ballet," she said, but her tone made it clear she didn't actually think it was nice at all. "Lily's been dancing since she was 3. She's already won several junior competitions." I just nodded and smiled, trying to be polite. That was my introduction to Nicole, who would become the bane of my existence over the next few years. The financial strain hit pretty quick. Ballet isn't cheap, especially when your budget is already stretched thin. Elijah progressed quickly, according to Ms. Vivian. After 6 months, she pulled me aside and suggested moving him to a more advanced class. "He has natural talent," she told me, and I practically burst with pride. That's also when the real drama started. The advanced class meant more serious dancers and even more intense parents. Nicole's daughter Lily was in this class too, and Nicole did not like the attention Elijah was getting from Ms. Vivian. I started noticing Nicole watching Elijah during practice with this critical look on her face. One day after class, I overheard her telling another mom, "It's just a phase. Boys usually drop out after a year or so." I wanted to say something, but I've learned that keeping my mouth shut is usually the better option in these situations. I wasn't there to make enemies. I was just supporting my kid. The first time I realized how serious the competition was came during costume measurements for the spring showcase. All the parents were required to volunteer for something, and I got stuck on the costume committee with Nicole and 2 other moms, Bethany and Paige. Paige was pretty chill. Her daughter Zoe was new to the advanced class too. Bethany was Nicole's sidekick, basically agreeing with everything she said. Nicole took charge immediately, assigning tasks like she was a corporate CEO. "Maya, you can handle the boys' costumes," she said dismissively. "There are only 3 of them, so it should be simple enough." I wasn't going to argue. Easier workload for me. But then Nicole started talking about costume budgets, and my stomach dropped. "We're thinking $175 per costume," she announced, checking her designer planner. "That includes materials and the seamstress fee." I nearly choked. $175 was almost half my weekly paycheck. When I suggested looking for more budget-friendly options, Nicole looked at me like I'd suggested the kids perform in garbage bags. "We want the children to look professional," she said coldly. "If cost is an issue for some families, perhaps they should consider the recreational class instead." The way she glanced at me made it clear who she was talking about. Paige must have noticed my face because she jumped in. "I think Maya has a point. Not everyone can afford that much for a costume they'll wear once. Maybe we could look at rental options or reusing pieces from previous shows." Nicole's face got all pinched, but Bethany unexpectedly spoke up too. "My husband just got laid off, so we're on a tight budget too. I'd appreciate if we could keep costs down." Nicole was outnumbered, and she did not like it. That night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Paige, who explained that she'd gotten my number from the parent directory. "Don't let Nicole intimidate you," her text read. "Some of us are tired of her running everything." It was nice to know I wasn't alone in the Nicole struggle. Paige became my first real ally in the dance world. She'd invite Elijah and me over for pizza after Saturday morning rehearsals, and her daughter Zoe and Elijah became friends too. Her husband Tyler was super supportive of Zoe's dancing and became one of Elijah's biggest fans. He'd high-five Elijah after class and tell him how awesome his jumps were getting. It was so refreshing to see after dealing with my brother's attitude. Speaking of Jason, he finally came to watch Elijah in class about 8 months after he started. I think my constant updates about Elijah's progress made him curious. I'll never forget the look on his face when he saw Elijah execute a perfect pirouette. His mouth literally dropped open. "Damn, The kid's actually good, he whispered to me. After class, he took Elijah out for ice cream and apologized to me later for being kind of a jerk about the whole ballet thing. Baby steps, I guess. My mom was a harder sell. She kept sending me articles about sports scholarships and the importance of boys having male role models. I finally snapped after about the 5th article and told her if she couldn't support Elijah's choices, she didn't need to be involved. We didn't speak for 2 weeks after that, which was tough because she usually helped with childcare when I worked weekends. I had to scramble to find alternatives, which usually meant bringing Elijah to the pet store with me and having him do homework in the back room. The winter showcase was approaching, and Ms. Vivian announced that they'd be doing The Nutcracker. Elijah was cast as Fritz, Clara's mischievous brother, which was a pretty good role for his first big performance. Lily, of course, was cast as Clara. Nicole practically strutted around the studio after the cast list went up. The rehearsal schedule intensified, and so did the parent politics. Nicole started hosting rehearsal brunches at her massive house after Saturday practices. Invitations were clearly selective, and Elijah and I never made the cut. Paige got invited once and reported back that it was basically a Nicole praise fest, where she subtly criticized other dancers while pretending to be concerned. She kept talking about how children who don't practice enough hold the whole production back, Paige told me over coffee. Everyone knew she was talking about Zoe and Elijah, even though Ms. Vivian has never said they're falling behind. The costume drama reached new heights when we discovered the Fritz costume from last year's production wouldn't fit Elijah. He'd grown about 3 inches in the past year. Kids, am I right? And the pants looked like floods on him. I offered to alter it myself, but Nicole, who had somehow appointed herself costume coordinator despite our committee structure, insisted we needed a professional touch. This meant more money, of course. I was about to argue when Gavin, one of the other dance dads, stepped in. His son Marcus was playing the Nutcracker Prince, and he worked as a tailor. I can adjust it, no problem, he offered. No charge. We parents have to stick together. I could have hugged him. Nicole was fuming but couldn't really object without looking like a complete jerk. As the performance got closer, Elijah started getting nervous. He'd practice in our tiny living room until bedtime, counting under his breath. One night I found him crying in his room, worried he'd mess up and everyone would laugh at him. I sat on his bed and reminded him how hard he'd worked and how proud I was, no matter what happened on stage. Even if you fall flat on your face, which you won't, I'll still be cheering the loudest, I promised. He laughed and asked if I could help him practice one more time. So there I was at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, filming my son doing dance moves in our living room so he could watch himself and make corrections. Single mom life, I tell you. The day before the show, disaster struck. Elijah woke up with a sore throat and a slight fever. I panicked. After all the work, all the sacrifice, he might miss his first real performance. I called in sick to work. My manager was not happy, gave Elijah medicine, and made him stay in bed all day watching movies. I was texting Paige updates every hour, and she offered to bring over her miracle soup that apparently cured all illnesses within 24 hours. It didn't quite work miracles, but by that evening, Elijah's fever was gone, and he was feeling well enough to run through his routine once more before bed. I breathed a massive sigh of relief. The morning of the recital was complete chaos. We had to be at the theater by noon for a final dress rehearsal, even though the show wasn't until 7 p.m. I packed a bag with snacks, activities, extra tights, yes, boys wear tights in ballet, and enough water to survive a desert crossing. When we arrived at the theater, it was already buzzing with activity. Parents were running around with costume pieces, makeup kits, and stressed expressions. Nicole had established a command center backstage and was directing people with the authority of a 5-star general. I checked Elijah in with Ms. Vivian's assistant, a college-age dancer named Jade, who showed him where to put his things. As I was about to head back to the lobby, Nicole intercepted me. "Maya, we need more parent volunteers backstage," she said, though it wasn't really a request. "The boys need supervision, and since you're a boy parent." I wanted to point out that I had planned to save seats for my family, but the look on Nicole's face told me resistance was futile. I texted Rachel, who had promised to come support Elijah, asking if she could come early to save seats. "No problem. I'll bring a book and camp out," she replied. Bless her. Backstage was organized chaos. The younger dancers were running around despite repeated instructions to walk, while the older teens were huddled in corners practicing their moves. Elijah was getting along well with the 2 other boys in the production, Marcus, Gavin's son, who was playing the Nutcracker Prince, and a quiet kid named Leo, who was part of the party scene ensemble. My job was apparently to keep these 3 boys occupied and out of trouble for the next several hours. I had brought some card games, which turned out to be a lifesaver. Soon we had a small crowd of kids playing Uno in the corner of the dressing room. The dress rehearsal went surprisingly well. Elijah nailed all his moves, and even Ms. Vivian seemed pleased. "Excellent energy, Elijah," she said after his scene. "Just remember to keep your chin up during the party scene." He nodded seriously, taking in every word like gospel. I noticed Nicole watching from the wings. Her eyes narrowed slightly. After rehearsal, we had a few hours to kill before the actual performance. Most families went out for early dinners, but I hadn't budgeted for restaurant meals. Instead, I had packed sandwiches for Elijah and me, and we ate them in a quiet corner of the lobby. Nicole walked by with Lily and some other dance moms, all dressed in nice outfits, clearly heading out somewhere fancy. She gave our sad little picnic a look but didn't say anything. One of the other moms, whose name I couldn't remember, slowed down and whispered, "Smart thinking with the packed food. Wish I'd thought of that instead of dropping $50 on mediocre pasta." I smiled gratefully at her. About an hour before showtime, family members started arriving. Rachel had successfully saved seats, bless her heart, and texted me that she had room for 5 people in the 3rd row. My mom showed up, which was a surprise since she'd been so critical of the ballet thing. She brought her boyfriend Frank, who I barely barely knew but seemed nice enough. Jason arrived last minute with his girlfriend Samantha, looking uncomfortable in a button-up shirt. "So this is a whole thing, huh?" he said, gesturing at the crowded lobby full of excited families. "I thought it would be like, in the school gym or something." I rolled my eyes and directed them to Rachel, who was guarding our seats with fierce determination. I had to get backstage where the real pre-show drama was unfolding. Leo, one of the boy dancers, was having a complete meltdown because his costume was too tight across the shoulders. The poor kid could barely lift his arms, which is pretty essential for ballet. Gavin, the tailor dad, was attempting emergency alterations with a travel sewing kit, but it wasn't going well. Meanwhile, Nicole was having her own crisis because Lily's hair wasn't cooperating with the Clara hairstyle. I heard her snap at Lily, "If you had practiced with the hairstyle like I told you to, this wouldn't be happening." Lily looked on the verge of tears, and I felt a pang of sympathy for her despite her mother being the worst. On impulse, I went over and offered to help. "I'm pretty good with hair," I said, which wasn't entirely true, but I'd watched enough YouTube tutorials to fake it. Nicole looked ready to refuse, but Lily looked so hopeful that she reluctantly stepped aside. I gently fixed the hairstyle while chatting with Lily about school and her favorite parts of the dance. She gradually relaxed, and by the time I was done, her hair looked perfect, and she was smiling again. "Thank you, Ms. Maya," she said politely. Nicole gave a tight-lipped thanks and quickly ushered Lily away. 15 minutes before curtain, and disaster struck again. Elijah came running up to me, panic in his eyes. "Mom, I can't find my left shoe." The custom ballet shoes were part of the costume and had been specially dyed to match. Without them, he couldn't go on stage. We tore apart his belongings, checked under furniture, and retraced his steps. Nothing. I was about to go ask Ms. Vivian what to do when I overheard Lily talking to another girl. "I saw Fritz's shoe in the water fountain earlier. Someone must have dropped it there as a joke." My blood ran cold. I sprinted to the drinking fountain in the hallway, and sure enough, there was a soaking wet ballet shoe sitting in the basin. I fished it out, trying to stay calm while internally screaming. There was no way it would dry in time. I grabbed paper towels and did my best to blot it, then ran back to find Gavin, the miracle-working tailor dad. "Any chance you know how to dry a shoe in 10 minutes? I asked desperately. Gavin took one look at the situation and went into action mode. He pulled out a small travel hairdryer from his emergency kit. This man came prepared, and started carefully drying the shoe while I held it. "My money's on Lily," he muttered under his breath. "Saw her sneaking around the boys' dressing area earlier." I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it did seem suspicious. We managed to get the shoe mostly dry, though it was still damp in spots. "It'll finish drying from his body heat once he's dancing," Gavin assured me. I thanked him profusely and rushed the shoe back to Elijah, who was nearly in tears from stress. "Crisis averted," I told him, helping him put it on. "Just another battle scar for your first big performance." He gave me a wobbly smile and I hugged him tight. "You're going to be amazing," I whispered. The 5-minute call came, and all the dancers got into position. Parents were shooed out to find their seats. I rushed to join my family, sliding in next to my mom just as the lights dimmed. "Everything okay?" she whispered. "Totally fine," I lied, trying to slow my racing heart. The music started, the curtain rose, and just like that, all the chaos faded away. The Nutcracker began with the party scene, and when Elijah bounded onto stage as Fritz, I felt my chest swell with pride. He looked so confident, so in his element. His slightly damp left shoe didn't seem to bother him at all as he leapt and turned. My mom grabbed my hand during Elijah's first solo moment. "He's really good," she whispered, sounding surprised. "Like, really good." I just nodded, too emotional to speak. Rachel was recording everything on her phone, while Jason looked genuinely impressed. The performance wasn't perfect. There were a few wobbles and missed cues among the younger dancers. At one point, Lily seemed to deliberately position herself in front of Elijah during a moment when they were supposed to be side by side. I saw Elijah smoothly adjust, moving to ensure he remained visible without disrupting the choreography. Smart kid. During intermission, Jason leaned over. "Dude, Elijah's killing it out there. That jump thing he did? Insane." Coming from my sports-obsessed brother, this was high praise indeed. My mom was already on her phone, showing Frank videos of Elijah's previous practices that I'd sent her. Apparently she had saved them all, despite her initial disapproval. The second act went even better than the first. There was one heart-stopping moment when Elijah nearly slipped during a turn, I'm guessing because of the still damp shoe, but he recovered so smoothly that it looked intentional. When the final curtain fell, the applause was thunderous. We waited in the lobby for the dancers to change and come out. Families gathered in clumps, holding bouquets and gifts. I had managed to afford a single red rose for Elijah, which felt inadequate compared to the elaborate flower arrangements some kids were receiving. The dancers began trickling out. Lily emerged first, immediately surrounded by Nicole, and what looked like an entire extended family, all bearing gifts and taking photos. More dancers appeared, including Marcus and Leo, who both got big hugs from their parents. Finally, Elijah came bounding out, still buzzing with performance energy. He spotted us and ran over, launching himself into my arms. "Mom, did you see? Did you see when I did the big jump?" I hugged him tight, fighting back tears. "I saw everything. You were incredible." Jason gave him a high five that turned into a hug. "Dude, you're a star. Way better than any soccer player I've seen your age." My mom actually had tears in her eyes as she hugged him. "I'm so proud of you, Elijah. You were the best one up there." Rachel handed him a small gift bag. "For the amazing performer," she said with a wink. Inside was a gift card to his favorite ice cream place. As we were celebrating, Ms. Vivian made her way through the crowd to us. "Elijah, wonderful performance tonight," she said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I wanted to let you know that representatives from the Summer Intensive program were here tonight, and they were very impressed with your work." My heart skipped a beat. The Summer Intensive was an elite program that only accepted the most promising dancers. "They've invited you to audition for a spot in their program this summer," Ms. Vivian continued. Elijah's eyes widened. "Really? Me?" Ms. Vivian nodded, smiling. "Really you. The audition is next month. I'll email your mother all the details." She gave me a significant look. "It's a wonderful opportunity, though I should mention it is a significant commitment, both in terms of time and resources." I understood what she meant. These programs weren't cheap, but But before I could worry about that, we needed to celebrate this moment. Thank you, Ms. Vivian, I said. We're honored. After Ms. Vivian moved on, I noticed Nicole watching us from across the lobby, her expression unreadable. Lily stood beside her, clutching an enormous bouquet and looking tired despite her smile. As we were leaving, Paige caught up with us. Elijah was fantastic, she gushed. Zoe can't stop talking about how cool his jumps were. She lowered her voice. Hey, Tyler and I are hosting a little cast party at our place tomorrow afternoon. Nothing fancy, just pizza and games. We'd love if you and Elijah could come. It was the first time we'd been included in a social event with the dance families. We'll be there, I said, touched by the invitation. The next day at Paige and Tyler's house, I got my first real glimpse into the dance parent social world. Their home was warm and inviting, not showy like I imagined Nicole's would be. About half the cast showed up, including Marcus and Leo, but notably not Lily. The kids immediately ran off to play, while the parents gathered in the kitchen with drinks and snacks. Gavin was there with his husband David, and they immediately made me feel welcome. The shoe hero arrives, Gavin announced as I walked in, making everyone laugh. I was introduced to parents I hadn't really spoken with before, Ruby and Alan, whose daughter was a snowflake, Mard and Peter, whose twin girls were in the corps, and Shadow, apparently a nickname, whose son Leo was one of the boy dancers. The conversation inevitably turned to the summer intensive auditions. Is Elijah going to try out? Ruby asked me. Ms. Vivian specifically mentioned him, which is huge. She only recommends kids she thinks have a real shot. I sipped my wine, uncertain how to respond. He really wants to, but I'm looking into the financial side of things. Those programs aren't exactly budget-friendly. The parents exchanged knowing looks. Tell me about it, Shadow said. We've been saving all year for Leo's summer training. It's like paying college tuition for a 10-year-old. Paige mentioned that there were some scholarships available, but they were highly competitive. Nicole's already telling everyone that Lily's a shoo-in for one of the full scholarships, she added, rolling her eyes. Apparently her husband Marcus is on the board of the summer program. This was news to me, and not good news. If Nicole had that kind of connection, what chance did Elijah have? The conversation moved on, but I couldn't stop thinking about the financial obstacle. The next week, I made an appointment with Ms. Vivian to discuss the summer intensive. She was candid about the costs, several $1,000s for the 6-week program, but also mentioned that partial scholarships might be available. There's also an option for older students to work as junior assistants in exchange for reduced tuition, she added. Elijah's a bit young for that, but perhaps there's another way he could contribute. He's very good with the younger children. This gave me an idea. What if he helped with the pre-ballet classes? He's great with little kids. Ms. Vivian considered this. That could work. We do need more helpers for the summer Tiny Dancers program. She made some notes. I can't promise anything, but I'll speak with the board about creating a work-study position. I left feeling cautiously optimistic. That evening, I helped Elijah register for the audition and started researching budget-friendly ways to prepare. YouTube had free ballet masterclasses that we watched together in our living room, pushing the coffee table aside to practice. My mom surprised me by offering to pay for 2 private coaching sessions with Ms. Vivian before the audition. Consider it making up for being a judgmental old bat, she said when she called with the offer. Elijah's got something special, and I want to help. I nearly cried at this unexpected support. The dance studio parent chat group was buzzing with audition talk. Nicole frequently posted about Lily's preparation, private coaches, special conditioning classes, new custom audition outfits. I tried not to let it intimidate me, focusing instead on helping Elijah practice consistently and maintain his confidence. One day after class, I overheard Nicole talking to another mom while I was waiting for Elijah. The scholarship committee really looks at family commitment, she was saying loudly enough for me to hear. They want to make sure parents can handle the demands of the program. Single parents often struggle with the schedule. My blood boiled, but I kept my expression neutral. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing she'd gotten to me. Later that week, Nicole approached me directly after class. Maya, I wanted to let you know that Marcus and I are hosting a little information session about the summer intensive at our home this weekend. As board members, we have some insider perspective that might be helpful. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Elijah is welcome too, of course. Lily's instructor will be there to work with the children while the parents talk. I was immediately suspicious of her sudden friendliness. Thanks for the invitation, I said carefully. What time should we be there? Nicole seemed surprised that I accepted. 3 o'clock Saturday, she replied. We're in Oakwood Heights. I'll text you the address. I had never been to Nicole's neighborhood before, but I knew it was one of the wealthiest areas in town. When Elijah and I pulled up to their house that Saturday, I felt immediately out of place. Their house was practically a mansion, with manicured grounds and a circular driveway filled with luxury cars. Elijah whistled. Whoa, Lily lives in a castle. I straightened my simple blouse and jeans, wishing I'd worn something nicer. Remember your manners and don't touch anything that looks expensive, I whispered as we approached the door. Nicole greeted us wearing what looked like designer loungewear that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Welcome! The children are gathering in the sunroom for their workshop, and parents are in the main living room. She directed Elijah down a hallway where we could hear other kids talking, then led me to a large, immaculate living room where about a dozen parents were already seated with mimosas and fancy snacks. I recognized a few faces from the studio, including Paige, who looked as uncomfortable as I felt. She gave me a small wave, patting the empty seat next to her. I gratefully sat down, declining the mimosa a server offered. Isn't this a bit much for an information session? I whispered to Paige. She nodded slightly. Tyler called it competitive parenting theater and refused to come. Nicole's husband Marcus turned out to be surprisingly down to earth despite his obvious wealth. He seemed genuinely passionate about ballet education as he discussed the summer intensive program, explaining the audition process and what the committee looked for in candidates. Technical skill is important, of course, he said, but we also value musicality, performance quality, and the ability to take direction. Some of our most successful students weren't the most technically perfect dancers at first, but they had that special spark and willingness to work hard. I noticed Nicole shifting uncomfortably during this part. After the formal presentation, parents broke into smaller conversations. I was gathering my courage to approach Marcus about scholarship possibilities when Nicole smoothly intercepted me. "Maya, I wanted to introduce you to Veronica," she said, steering me toward an older woman I hadn't noticed before. "She coordinates the parent volunteer committee for the summer intensive." Veronica gave me a practiced smile. "Nicole tells me you're a single mother? We always need help with carpooling and chaperoning events. It's a big commitment, sometimes up to 30 hours a week of parent participation." My heart sank as I realized what Nicole was doing. She was making sure I understood how impossible the program would be for my situation. Before I could respond, Marcus appeared beside us. 30 hours? Veronica, that's not accurate. We ask for 5 to 10 hours per family for the entire 6-week program, not per week. He gave Nicole a questioning look. "And we have multiple scholarship opportunities, including some that cover transportation, and extended hours specifically to help working parents." The tension between Nicole and Marcus was palpable. Nicole quickly excused herself to check on the children, while Marcus apologized for the misinformation. "We're actually working to make the program more accessible this year," he told me. "I'd be happy to discuss options for Elijah if he's accepted." I thanked him, feeling a mix of hope and wariness. As Paige and I left together, she filled me in on some studio gossip. "Rumor has it Nicole and Marcus are having problems," she whispered. "Apparently he's tired of her using his position to play dance politics." I took this with a grain of salt, but it did explain the tension I'd witnessed. The next day, a new drama erupted in the parent chat group. Nicole had posted a long message about maintaining the prestigious standards of the summer intensive and ensuring spots go to the most deserving dancers who have proper family support structures. It wasn't hard to read between the lines. Several parents responded with supportive emojis, but Paige boldly replied, "All talented dancers deserve opportunities, regardless of family structure or financial status. That's what scholarships are for." This sparked a heated debate, with parents taking sides. I stayed out of it, focusing instead on helping Elijah prepare for his audition. The controversy spread beyond our immediate dance circle when Nicole took her complaints to a local parents' Facebook group. Without naming names, she posted about unfair advantages being given to certain students and lowering standards to satisfy political correctness. Someone anonymously shared screenshots with me, along with messages of support. "We all know she's talking about Elijah, and it's disgusting," one mom wrote. "My daughter takes the Saturday morning class with him, and he helps all the kids who are struggling. He's what the dance community should be about." I was touched by the support, but worried about the growing drama affecting Elijah. I made sure to keep all of this away from him, wanting him to focus on his dancing, not adult politics. The situation escalated further when Ms. Vivian called an emergency parent meeting at the studio. She looked unusually stern as she addressed the packed room. "It has come to my attention that there is concerning behavior happening within our parent community," she began. "I want to be very clear. This studio values diversity, inclusion, and fairness above all else. Any attempt to undermine these values or to use influence to gain advantages will not be tolerated." Her gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on Nicole, who was studying her manicure. "Furthermore, I've spoken with the board of the summer intensive program, and they have agreed to implement blind auditions this year. Students will be assigned numbers, and judges will not have access to their names or backgrounds until after selections are made." There was a murmur of surprise throughout the room. Nicole's head snapped up, her expression a mix of shock and anger. Ms. Vivian continued, "This change was suggested by board member Marcus Harrison, who feels it will ensure the most fair and unbiased selection process." Nicole stood abruptly and left the room. The meeting continued with logistical details about upcoming events, but the dramatic exit was all anyone could talk about afterward. Gavin sidled up to me as we were leaving. "Well, that was better than reality TV," he quipped. "Rumor has it Marcus slept on the couch last night after he told Nicole about the blind audition change." I felt a little bad for the Harrison family drama, but was mostly relieved that Elijah would have a fair shot at the program. That evening, I received a surprising text from an unknown number. "This is Marcus Harrison. I wanted to apologize for my wife's behavior and assure you that the selection process will be fair. Elijah is a talented young man who deserves every opportunity to succeed." I stared at my phone, unsure how to respond. Eventually, I simply wrote back, "Thank you for your integrity. It means a lot to us." The weeks leading up to the audition were intense. Elijah practiced every day, determined to give his best performance. My mom came to watch one of his private lessons with Ms. Vivian and was visibly impressed by his progress. "He's got real talent," she admitted afterward, "and he works so hard." Jason even showed up to one of Elijah's practice sessions, bringing his girlfriend Samantha, who had dance experience herself. "Your extension is amazing," she told Elijah, showing him how to stretch even further. "You're a natural." The day before the audition, Elijah hit a wall of anxiety. "What if I mess up?" he asked as I tucked him in. "What if everyone else is better than me?" I sat on the edge of his bed, choosing my words carefully. "You might mess up. Everyone does sometimes, and some kids might be better at certain things, but no one else is you, with your exact combination of talents and personality. All you can do is your personal best." He seemed to consider this. "Ms. Vivian says I have good musicality," he said finally. "That's something special I have." I nodded. "Exactly. So tomorrow, just dance like you, not like anyone else." The morning of the audition, we arrived at the larger regional dance center where it was being held. There were about 30 children trying out for just 12 spots in Elijah's age group. I recognized several kids from our studio, including Lily, who was dressed in a custom-made audition outfit that probably cost more than all of Elijah's dance clothes combined. Nicole was fussing over Lily's hair, while Marcus stood slightly apart, looking uncomfortable in his role as both parent and board member. I helped Elijah check in and received his audition number. 17. Under the new blind system, this would be the only identification the judges would have. Parents weren't allowed to watch the audition, so I gave Elijah a quick hug at the studio door. Remember, dance like you, I whispered. He nodded solemnly, then joined the other children waiting to enter. I found a seat in the designated parent waiting area, pulling out the book I'd brought to distract myself. Paige joined me a few minutes later. Zoe's so nervous she could barely eat breakfast, she said. How's Elijah holding up? I explained about our talk the night before. Smart approach, she commented. Tyler and I tried the same thing with Zoe, but she's still convinced she'll be the worst one in there. We chatted for a while, both of us periodically checking the time. The audition was scheduled to last 2 hours, which felt like an eternity from the parent perspective. About halfway through, Nicole emerged from a side door and strode purposefully across the waiting area. She disappeared down a hallway marked administration only, returning about 10 minutes later looking satisfied. Paige and I exchanged concerned glances. That can't be good, Paige muttered. Should we say something? I hesitated. Let's wait and see what happens. Maybe she just needed to use the bathroom. But my instincts told me Nicole was up to something. Shortly before the audition ended, Marcus also appeared in the waiting area. He nodded politely to the gathered parents, then followed the same path Nicole had taken earlier. This time, I decided to act. I approached the registration desk, where a young woman was organizing paperwork. Excuse me, I'm concerned about the integrity of the blind audition process, I said quietly. I've observed 2 parents of participants entering the administrative area, one of whom is a board member. The woman looked alarmed. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll alert the audition coordinator immediately. Within minutes, an older gentleman in a suit came out and spoke briefly with the receptionist, who pointed in my direction. He came over and introduced himself as Daniel Royce, the executive director of the program. I understand you have concerns about our process today? He asked. I explained what I'd seen, careful to stick to facts without accusations. He listened carefully, then thanked me. I assure you, the judging is happening in a separate area with no parent access. However, I will personally verify that no one has attempted to influence the process. He disappeared down the hallway, returning a few minutes later with Marcus, who looked deeply embarrassed. As they passed by, I overheard Daniel saying, regardless of your board position, entering that area during an audition creates the appearance of impropriety. Marcus nodded, looking contrite. The children began emerging from the studio shortly after. Elijah bounced out, looking sweaty but excited. Mom, I did my best split leap ever, and the teacher said my port de bras was exceptional. That's good, right? I hugged him, relief washing over me. That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you for giving it your all. Lily came out looking upset, with Nicole right behind her wearing a thunderous expression. She glared in my direction before hustling Lily toward the exit. Other children filtered out with varying expressions of exhaustion, excitement, and anxiety. We were told results would be emailed within 48 hours. Those 2 days were the longest of my life. Elijah tried to act nonchalant, but I could tell he was checking my phone for emails every chance he got. I tried to keep us both busy, but by the evening of the second day, we were both on edge. Finally, just after dinner, the email arrived. I took a deep breath before opening it, Elijah peering anxiously over my shoulder. Dear Ms. Rivera, we are pleased to inform you that Elijah Rivera, audition number 17, has been accepted into the summer intensive program. Elijah's shriek of joy nearly burst my eardrums. He started dancing around the kitchen, knocking over a chair in his excitement. I kept reading and discovered more good news. He had been awarded a partial scholarship that would cover half the tuition costs. There was also information about the work-study program Ms. Vivian had suggested, which could further reduce the cost. It would still be a financial stretch, but suddenly it seemed possible. I immediately called my mom to share the news. She actually screamed with excitement, then put me on speakerphone so Frank could hear too. We want to contribute to his tuition, she announced. Consider it our investment in his future. I started to protest, but she cut me off. Maya, let us help. I was wrong about this ballet thing, and I want to make it right. Jason was equally supportive when I called him. Kid's a star. I'm not surprised, he said. Hey, I can pick him up a couple days a week if that helps with your work schedule. My family was finally all in on Elijah's dance journey. The next day at the studio was interesting. Word had spread quickly about who made it into the program. Zoe had been accepted too, and she and Elijah celebrated together before class. Leo had also gotten in, but Marcus Jr. had not, which was causing some awkward dynamics since his dad was on the board. The biggest surprise was that Lily hadn't been accepted into the main program, but was offered a spot in the second-tier training group instead. Nicole was nowhere to be seen at drop-off, with Marcus bringing Lily to class looking tired but resolute. Gavin pulled me aside as we waited. Word is Nicole had a complete meltdown when Lily didn't get in, he whispered. Apparently she tried to get the results changed, but Marcus refused to intervene. She's threatening divorce. I felt a pang of sympathy for their family situation, despite everything Nicole had done. The drama reached its peak at the next studio board meeting, which was open to all parents. Nicole arrived late, sitting stiffly in the back row while Marcus sat with the other board members at the front. Ms. Vivian opened by congratulating all the students who had auditioned, regardless of outcome, then moved on to announce some studio policy changes. In light of recent events, we're implementing new guidelines for parent conduct and program admissions, she explained. All studio opportunities will now use blind evaluation processes, and parent volunteer requirements will be adjusted to accommodate different family situations. This was clearly aimed at creating more equity in the system. Nicole raised her hand. I'd like to point out that parent participation is crucial for a successful dance program, she said, her voice tight. Lowering expectations doesn't help anyone. Before Ms. Vivian could respond, another parent spoke up. Shadow, Leo's dad. As a single father, I find that attitude discriminatory, he said firmly. I work full-time and still support my son's dance education. Different family structures can provide equally strong support in different ways. Several parents murmured agreement. Marcus cleared his throat. I'd like to announce that I'm stepping down from the studio board, effective immediately, he said. I believe fresh perspectives would benefit our community. He glanced at Nicole, whose face had gone pale. Additionally, I'm establishing a new scholarship fund specifically for dancers who demonstrate exceptional talent regardless of financial means. The meeting continued with discussion of upcoming events, but the undercurrent of change was the real story. Afterward, parents formed clusters in the parking lot, talking animatedly about the developments. Paige, Gavin, Shadow, and I ended up grabbing coffee together, forming an impromptu support group of sorts. So much for Nicole's dance empire, Gavin said, stirring his latte. I heard half her brunch club has jumped ship. Shadow shrugged. People follow power. Now that Marcus is pushing back, they're seeing which way the wind blows. I felt uncomfortable with the gossip aspect, even though Nicole had certainly earned the criticism. I'm just glad the system is becoming fairer, I said. That's what matters for the kids. Paige nodded in agreement. Speaking of kids, Zoe wants to have a pool party to celebrate everyone who made it into summer programs. Can Elijah come? Just like that, we shifted from dance politics to normal parent talk, planning gatherings and sharing resources for the upcoming summer challenge. The weeks leading up to the summer intensive were busy but exciting. Elijah started his work-study position, helping with the tiny dancer classes 2 afternoons a week. He turned out to have a natural talent for working with the younger children, showing infinite patience as they stumbled through their first positions. Ms. Vivian even commented that he might have a future in teaching if he wanted. I arranged my work schedule to accommodate the summer program, grateful that my manager had become more supportive after seeing how serious Elijah was about dance. My mom and Jason helped with transportation on days when I couldn't make it work, truly making it a family effort. The most surprising development came about a week before the program started. I was at the studio picking up Elijah's schedule when Nicole approached me. She looked different, less polished, more human somehow. Maya, do you have a minute? She asked, her usual commanding tone absent. We stepped aside, and she took a deep breath. I wanted to apologize for my behavior. It was inappropriate and unfair to both you and Elijah. I was so shocked I couldn't immediately respond. She continued, Marcus and I are separating, which has been a wake-up call in many ways. I've been projecting my own issues onto Lily's dancing, and it wasn't healthy for anyone. Her vulnerability seemed genuine. Thank you for the apology, I said finally. I appreciate it. She nodded, then added, Lily really admires Elijah, you know. She talks about his jumps all the time. This surprised me. Really? That's nice to hear. Nicole smiled slightly. She's excited about the second-tier program now that I've stopped making her feel like it's a failure. She just wants to dance with her friends. As she walked away, I realized how much pressure she must have been putting on Lily all along. The summer intensive began with an orientation day for students and parents. The atmosphere was electric with excitement as children from various studios came together. Elijah quickly bonded with a boy named Aiden who had similar energy and enthusiasm. The program director outlined the intensive schedule: technique classes in the morning, repertoire in the afternoon, with special workshops in choreography, music interpretation, and dance history. Parents were given information about the showcase that would happen at the end of the 6 weeks. I noticed Lily in the second-tier group, looking happier and more relaxed than I'd ever seen her. Nicole sat alone, taking notes and keeping to herself, while Marcus was nowhere to be seen. The first week of the program was exhausting for Elijah. He came home each day completely drained but buzzing with new knowledge. Mom, I learned how to do a proper tour jeté today, he announced one evening, attempting to demonstrate in our small living room and nearly knocking over a lamp. I watched him grow not just as a dancer but as a person, gaining confidence and making new friends from diverse backgrounds. The work-study arrangement turned out to be even better than expected. Ms. Vivian was so impressed with Elijah's teaching abilities that she offered him a more formal assistant position for the fall, which would include a tuition reduction for his regular classes. By the third week, even the most skeptical members of my family were converted. Jason brought his entire softball team to watch a mid-program demonstration, and they cheered for Elijah like he was scoring the winning run at a championship game. My mom had started taking senior ballet fitness classes, inspired by seeing how dance had transformed Elijah's life. The showcase preparation began in earnest during the final 2 weeks. Elijah had been cast in 2 group pieces and given a short solo, which was unusual for a first-year participant. He practiced relentlessly, going over the choreography in every spare moment. One evening as I was picking him up, I ran into Nicole and Lily leaving at the same time. Elijah's solo looks wonderful, Nicole commented. Lily was showing me videos from rehearsal. I thanked her, still getting used to this new civil relationship. Lily's group piece is coming along beautifully too, I offered. Those turns in the second section are really impressive. Lily beamed at the compliment. As they walked away, I heard Lily ask, Mom, can Elijah come to my birthday party next month? I couldn't hear Nicole's response, but the fact that the question was even being asked represented enormous progress. The showcase arrived before we knew it. Unlike the tense atmosphere of the Nutcracker, this event felt joyful and supportive. Families mingled in the lobby, sharing snacks and stories of their summer dance adventures. Many studio tensions had dissolved through the shared experience of supporting the children through such an intensive program. Shadow, Paige, Gavin, and I had formed a solid friendship, carpooling and helping each other throughout the summer. We saved seats for each other and exchanged proud glances as our children performed. Even Nicole seemed to have found her place in a new parent network, focusing on fundraising for scholarships rather than social hierarchy. The performance was magical. Elijah danced with newfound maturity and confidence, his solo bringing tears to my eyes. When all the dancers took their final bow, wow, the audience erupted in thunderous applause. Backstage was a celebration zone, with children exchanging gifts and contact information, promising to stay in touch until classes resumed in the fall. Ms. Vivian made a point of speaking to each student individually, offering specific praise and guidance for continued growth. When she reached Elijah, she smiled warmly. "You've made remarkable progress this summer, Elijah. I hope you'll consider auditioning for our youth company in the spring." His eyes widened at this new goal to aspire to. As we were leaving, I spotted Marcus in the lobby, holding a bouquet of flowers. He caught my eye and nodded in acknowledgement before making his way to Lily, who ran to hug him. Nicole stood slightly apart, allowing their moment together. Later that evening, as Elijah recounted every detail of the day while I drove us home, I reflected on our journey. What had started as a simple activity had become a transformative experience not just for Elijah, but for our entire family, and even our community. The road hadn't been easy, with financial struggles, social politics, and plenty of doubt along the way. But watching my son discover his passion and persist, despite obstacles, made every sacrifice worthwhile. The following week, I received an unexpected email from Marcus Harrison. He was establishing a foundation to support diversity in dance education, and wanted my input as a parent who had navigated the system from outside the privileged circle. "Your advocacy for Elijah helped expose inequities that needed addressing," he wrote. "I'd value your perspective as we build something better." I found myself agreeing to join an advisory committee, alongside Shadow and several other parents with diverse experiences. At our first meeting, Nicole surprisingly showed up as well. "I'm here because Lily asked me to help make dance fair for everyone," she explained simply. As the summer drew to a close, our new normal took shape. Elijah continued his assistant role with the tiny dancers while advancing in his own training. My mom regularly attended his performances, often bringing her senior ballet classmates as an enthusiastic cheering section. Jason had become an unlikely ballet advocate, defending Elijah's choices when someone made an ignorant comment at his gym. My work accommodated my schedule when needed, recognizing that supporting Elijah's talent was a priority worth making adjustments for. The dance parent community had evolved too. While competition still existed, there was a new emphasis on collaboration and mutual support. The studio implemented many of the equity policies developed during the summer, creating more opportunities for talented dancers regardless of background. Nicole and I would never be best friends, but we had reached a place of civil cooperation, united by our children's shared passion for dance. 1 year after Elijah's first Nutcracker performance, he was cast as the Nutcracker Prince, with Lily as Clara. They had developed a friendly rivalry that pushed both of them to improve. Watching them rehearse together, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd all come. The journey had been challenging, but as I watched Elijah soar across the stage, I knew every difficult moment had been worth it. Our path forward would undoubtedly include more obstacles, more growth, and more dance politics to navigate. But we had built a community to face it together, one ballet slipper at a time. Looking back at the whole experience, from those first hesitant steps into Vivian's dance academy to watching Elijah become a confident young dancer with real prospects, I can't help but feel proud, not just of him, but of myself too. I stood my ground against Nicole's snobbery, fought for fairness when the deck was stacked against us, and somehow managed to juggle single parenthood, a full-time job, and the demanding world of competitive dance. The funny thing is, I never planned any of this. I was just trying to support my kids' interest, and suddenly I'm deep in dance mom politics, emergency shoe drying, and fundraising committees. Life takes these weird turns sometimes, you know? Yesterday, Elijah came home from practice and announced that his teacher thinks he has real potential to dance professionally someday if he continues to work hard. I don't know if that's the path he'll ultimately choose. He's still young and might discover other passions along the way. But whatever he decides, I know we've all learned something valuable from this journey. My mom learned to check her outdated notions about what boys should do. Jason discovered that ballet requires as much strength and discipline as any sport. I learned that I'm stronger and more resourceful than I thought. And Elijah, he learned that with passion, persistence, and a supportive community, he can overcome just about any obstacle, even Nicole Harrison on a mission. So here's to ballet slippers, backstage dramas, and finding your people in unexpected places. And if you're a parent whose kid just announced they want to try something unconventional, my advice is simple. Say yes. The journey might be complicated and messy, but watching your child find their joy is worth every single moment of it.